Anything can happen in prime time, and making a stop at a win because the number would hold 27-24. LA trying to get back down the field, nearly a crazy Puka Nacua reception, but ruled incomplete after a late loss of possession. 27-24, an upset victory, a 7th of the season for the Atlanta Falcons. Now that 4 seed gets all the more interesting in the NFC. Back in studio with the fellas, Joe Musso, Bryant McFadden, Emery Hunt, and guys, we'll get to the Atlanta side because some impressive stuff here, but all of the consequence lied on the shoulders of LA in this one, and it wasn't the type of effort you thought you'd get. Self-inflicted issues, penalty-wise, situational football in the first half was not good. How do you characterize the way they came out of the gates in this game?
Well, I think the conversation starts and stops with their quarterback, Matthew Stafford. We praised Matthew Stafford the entire season because of how smart he's been with the football, right? Coming in today's matchup, only throwing 5 interceptions for the entire season. And that was a major part of his individual success that led to team success. But in tonight's matchup, untimely interceptions. It jump-started the efforts for the Atlanta Falcons. It wasn't just about throwing interceptions, but anytime you throw an interception and they return it for a touchdown, that's a great chance for that team to win. And I gave the stat yesterday, you know, my legendary defensive coordinator, Dick LeBeau, he used to give us the analytical numbers. Anytime a team has a special teams touchdown or a defensive touchdown, you have like an 80 to 85% chance to win that ball game.
Now, how do you negate that if the other team gets a special teams touchdown?
Well, you negate that if you have a nice cushion to work with, which that play gave the Atlanta Falcons that necessary cushion that they needed, that prevail, even though the Rams came back with their own special teams touchdown as well. 3 interceptions today. I think if anyone told all of us as we got ready for this ball game that Matthew Stafford in a primetime stage, coming off a very, very emotional loss, would throw 3 interceptions to the Atlanta Falcons, I think all of us would say you're lying.
Emery, he makes the point that it's 5 interceptions coming into this game, but it was 2 in the one game that inexplicable almost lost to the Carolina Panthers earlier. They tend to come in bunches for Stafford right now. What did you see in the way that he was trying to attack the field early in this game and then the success he did see late?
It was weird because I felt like he was lax early in the game. The one interception he threw to Jesse Bates, right? Bates was playing deep third and just kind of was there to fill the overthrow, and he was able to run it back for a touchdown. So I felt like Stafford just was a little bit more lax with the football today. He didn't really try to force any passes that resulted in those interceptions. It was more about him just not being totally locked in. And on the other side of the ball, the defense, I thought that was the biggest issue for the Rams because they came in, played flat. Missed tackles, allowed Bijan to have his way. So usually when you are failing on one side of the ball and when you're a good team, the other side usually picks you up. But it was a total team effort because Stafford put the defense in the backed up situation, getting those guys down on the scoreboard. The defense did a great job of not paying it back by allowing the Falcons to run up and down the field. Bijan Robinson, 495 yards.
All right. Atlanta has been mathematically eliminated from playoff contention, but that doesn't mean they can't really get their fingerprints on what this playoff picture might look like. With this win, it is an insurance policy built in Week 18 for the Carolina Panthers. That head-to-head will come before the Atlanta game. We'll get into your full playoff picture and what it all means, but this is big time for that 4 seed in the NFC South. But it almost feels like that too little, too late, what could have been moment for this Atlanta team, Emery, especially when you look at the usage and production of Bijan Robinson.
Especially, think about it, Joe. This is it ties the longest winning streak under Raheem Morris this season. From weeks 4 to 6, they won those 3 games, and they just are now on a 3-game winning streak. So it's like, if you're a Falcon fan, you're like, man, where was this all season long? Because we've seen all the talent on the defensive side of the football. Dorless had a great game before he got injured. We saw what James Pierce's impact was. Xavier Watts had 2 interceptions, almost had a pick 6 in the second interception. So you watch the defense, and then you watch Bijan Robinson go for almost 200 yards on the ground. You're like, man, if we could have just had this offense throughout the course of the season, we'd be playing in the postseason. I think that brings the frustration, but it also brings a little bit more optimism and excitement going into next season. I know people don't want to hear about next season, but man, there's too much talent on this team, maybe to the detriment of Raheem Morris, and that they didn't punch the wall down this season with, you know, the offense. But man, overall, they got a lot to like here in Atlanta, and we saw it tonight. And that's why when we talk about the 4 and 5 seed in the playoffs, the NFC South plays like everyone in the division. Every team plays the same way, so you do have a puncher's chance. It's about whether or not you duck, and then counterpunch with a knockout blow.
You said something that was very, very important. It is a little too late. But if you're Raheem Morris, it's right on time. You know, being able to finish the season on a really, really positive note is important for him, because if you talk about the conversations in Atlanta, not within the organization, but just with the fan base, they're ready for Raheem to kick rocks, right? And when you see what they're doing now, he still has the locker room. He still has the pulse of the locker room. In the midst of a 3-game winning streak, the best winning streak in his career this season with the Falcons, you look at the teams they've beaten. 2 playoff teams, caliber teams.
They were flying
right?
around tonight.
You beat Tampa, who's in the midst of a playoff run potentially. The Rams are already in the playoffs, and you went out west and took care of the Arizona Cardinals. So those are quality teams, in my opinion. Even though the Arizona Cardinals are on the outside looking in, they can punch, they can swing also. So now, moving forward, you have an opportunity to finish this season in a 4-game winning streak and also beating your arch rival in the New Orleans Saints. That is a great way to end the season if you're Raheem Morris, if you want to make sure you keep your seat as safe and cool as possible, considering where they were months ago in the season.
It still feels like a job sitting on the razor's edge, because your Zane Gonzalez kick or even that deep shot late in this game from Matthew Stafford, if they hit on that, then you cough up a 21-point victory, and it's likely an end scene for Raheem Morris. We don't want to speak on any potential firings to this point, but to your point, Mac, this one does curry some favor for Raheem Morris as he's trying to make his case moving forward. Getting back on the LA side of this conversation, I'm not sure, Mac, what you want to revisit here, whether that be the MVP conversation, now being up in the air once again after a 3-interception performance from Matthew Stafford, or just the general idea that this LA Rams team is the most complete in the NFL and the team to beat.
Well, for me, I think it's safe to say with the MVP conversation, Matthew Stafford pretty much lost leverage tonight. Drake May has surpassed Matthew Stafford. I don't have the odds right here.
They were jockeying all game long, back and forth,
but
back and forth.
Drake May threw 5 touchdowns, flawless. Matthew Stafford threw 3 interceptions, you know, and a loss. I think that hurts his chances. But overall, guys, I want to address the defense for the Los Angeles Rams. You know, we highlighted this group throughout 3 quarters of the season with their relentless effort, the way they pressured the quarterback, and not allowing splash plays. But in 2 weeks, right, 2 weeks, you allowed 38 points, if I'm not mistaken, to Seattle in a come-from-behind win, and you allowed 27 points from the Atlanta Falcons in a game where Bijan Robinson had 226 yards of total offense.
It's just run fits. I know he's great, but it's run fits.
Just run fits. Just Kirk Cousins didn't have to do a lot. But even though Kirk didn't do a lot, you didn't touch Kirk one time.
Yeah.
0 sacks. 0 sacks. So once upon a time, we all looked at this Rams team as one of the best teams, not just in the NFC, but the entire NFL. But in the last 2 weeks, it seems like things are not clicking right for them. Not just on the offensive end, because we know Matthew Stafford's not going to throw 3 interceptions week in and week out. It was a bad outing, right? But for the defensive side, the last 2 weeks and what they allowed last week and how they just got ran through tonight, I think that's a reason to be a bit concerned with that group moving forward as they get ready for the playoffs. And knowing now, because of this loss, you potentially could see Chicago or Philly. And those are 2 teams, in terms of their style of play collectively, they both have better offenses in terms of the potential and the expectations than the Atlanta Falcons.
More outcomes are now at stake. The 5 seed is still alive for LA as well, barring a couple Week 18 outcomes. It is 5 or it is 6. That is the difference between seeing the winner of the NFC South or seeing, as you said, Philadelphia or Chicago. All of those games going to be on the road for the LA Rams. All right, back at that MVP conversation. Might it be slipping away these last 5 games? 2-3, a heartbreaker and an ugly 2-interception performance on a rainy day in Carolina. Might be another day in Carolina in round 1 of these playoffs for Matthew Stafford and these LA Rams.